Hello and good evening. Welcome to my little summary of Assassin's Creed 2. Um, so this is the first time I've ever written down something, and I will read back to you what I've written. Here we go. We join Ezio as an adolescent 17-year-old. He is cocky and rambunctious, to say the least. The assassin's way of life is kept hidden to him until the discovery of his presumably father's outfit and hidden blade. The incident that sparked our journey is the death of our father and two brothers. We then pursue the men responsible for this and learn that they are part of the Templar Order. That's just a broad overview of the story and how we got to where we are. I feel like the central focus around Ezio as he goes from adolescence to adulthood is very well done. I still think he ends up being a quote-unquote ladies' man, and we don't really see a true connection between any one love interest, at least in this game. This differs from Altair's growth as an arrogant assassin to a more humble and wise assassin, but at the same time also mirrors it in a lot of ways. Altair deepens his understanding of the creed and the philosophy of the assassins, while Ezio comes to grips with the loss of his family and being initiated into the Brotherhood. As far as the narrative goes, the weakest part for me was the introduction of, I'm gonna butcher the name, Girolamo Savonarola in Forli, or we don't really meet him there, but after we defend Forli. He just walks by and picks up the apple. I mean, we get stabbed, but sure, he's just like, yep, this is mine now, you've never seen me before, ha ha ha. Yeah, anyway, after a huge defense against the Orsi brothers, this guy just waltzes in and takes the piece of Eden. Like, seriously, what the hell? This then leads you back to Florence to overthrow Savonarola, who has used the power of the Piece of Eden to subjugate the citizens. There are 9 more assassinations to go through, which are simplistic in nature and only some have light restriction. I believe these assassinations are supposed to be a callback to the first Assassin's Creed. The whole sequence feels ham-fisted, badly paced, and acts as padding before you get to Rodrigo Borgia. Now, I'm very harsh at this part because I think this is the weakest part of what I consider a great game. I would have changed this in a few ways. I've just thinking out loud here. First, after Ezio kills the first Orsi brother, he returns to Forli and finds Christina Sforza captured by the other brother. Ezio would then have to rescue her by going through the city or inside the stronghold without being detected. Or alternatively, I would have had the 9 assassinations. So again, the Piece of Eden would get stolen, and then when you do the assassinations, I would have each assassination have a unique set of restrictions and or specific ways to reach each target, just to spice it up, and keep the pace of the game going at that point, because I don't know, it just feels like it's a dead stop and you have to go take care of this. And I did say at the time, it feels like at the end of Lord of the Rings Return of the King, and you're wrapping things up and, oh wait, we still have to go save the Shire, that kind of thing. Anyway, besides that little blip, I love everything else. I mean, you get to assassinate the Pope, for Christ's sake. Now, that's interesting to me. This is so weird reading. For the mechanics of the game, it feels like a very good improvement from the first game. There are more ways to assassinate, and there are more tools at your disposal. There are even codex entries that reflect the changes, which I think is awesome. Like when lore matches up the gameplay changes. The introduction of new enemy types and more weapon variety is a welcome addition, allowing the game to not get as stale in the combat department as before, but it still can become repetitive. Also, don't forget the double hidden blade. Those things are sweet, and it just makes you feel like a uber badass assassin. I think when you're dishing out double assassinations. I would say that the free running is just as good, if not better, than the first game, and the scaling is much more fluid. After Ezio learns the climb jump technique, I don't know what you really call it, from Rosa and Antonio, Ezio can reach even more heights than before, and I think if you get pretty good with it as a player, you can scale really quickly. The setting is beautiful, focusing on northern Italy primarily, only going as far south as Rome for the last sequence. The look and feel of each city separates them, in highly detailed architecture for 2009 is very impressive. I also really enjoy the Assassin's Tombs and Templar layers, the former of which unlocks Altair's armor, and the latter of which only rewards you with money, which I will say is fairly lame considering you have a never-ending supply from your villa, and then nothing to spend it on afterwards. So, now the biggest reveal of this whole game is the story of the first people and the time before. If you find and solve all the truth glyphs, you're treated to a film or a recording hidden by Subject 16. In this recording, you see what could be described as a cataclysmic event, something that is very dramatic at least, and it calls back to a sort of Adam and Eve of the Christian Bible, and follows the theme of calling the relics of power pieces of Eden. To add to this, we as Ezio are a conduit for the Prophet, who I assume is Desmond Miles. That may or may not get retconned in the future. I don't know all of the Assassin's Creed games. We meet Minerva, which is one of her many names, who tells us of the time before and how they created us humans in their image. Now, this may not mean they physically created us, but it's like a tutor creates their student. You know, I made you who you are today because I gave you all this knowledge. That kind of sense. That's how I take it. She tells us of the time before and how they created us humans in their image, yet conflict ensues. While each faction was distracted, a solar flare or something like it caused a great catastrophe and almost wiped everyone from history. We then learn that this time is to come again, or something like it. All of this lore and exposition is a huge dump right at the end, yet there are lots of hints as you play and unlock the different recordings of the truth. This is much different than the first Assassin's Creed, where they let you read through Abstergo documents at the end, only catching glimpses of what the outside world is like and what Abstergo was doing and how they tested. And also, this will probably stick with me for a while. Most of Africa is just wiped out due to some crazy ass virus. It's in the first Assassin's Creed game. It's there. There's a document. I'm pretty sure I got that on recording. And then the first Assassin's Creed, you don't really get I'm pretty sure there's no mention of a time before, like as you see in the quote-unquote truth. As far as the delivery in Assassin's Creed 2, I would call it fine, and I also found it exciting for what direction the next game will go. Now, I should say the next game would have gone, right? If I had no knowledge of the future games, I would theorize, based on my knowledge of AC1 and 2, The next game would feature Desmond Miles as the protagonist and assassin of the game. You as Desmond would team up with Lucy and fight Abstergo and Vidic. Like, I think he would be the main antagonist. Then to keep the series going, we would learn about the world-ending event and have to go back into the Animus to learn something like the whereabouts of another temple to a piece of Eden, something along those lines. Next game would pick up the next game following Desmond would pick up after that. And this is, just the top of my head, so take it as is. Overall, Assassin's Creed 2 is one of my most favorite games, and I think it's a great game and an amazing sequel. Like, no lie, So obviously I'm super biased, but that's what it means to me. I know that Assassin's Creed is, and more specifically Ubisoft, have a storied past, and to this day there are more Assassin's Creed games and more to come 15 years later, right? I still want to praise the past accomplishments, and I really enjoy revisiting and re-examining this game and the games to come and their narratives. I thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.